Yeah, thanks for coming in to listen in the middle of the day. My name is Ben Weinberg. I'm a developer advocate with the Axelar team. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Anyone here ever been? No, nice. It's not that exciting. No, it's too close. Pardon? Yeah, it's -3 right now, so I'm not there in Lisbon. But yeah, with the Axelar team, I've been traveling around Europe. Has anyone here ever heard of Axelar before? One hand. Okay. 2 hands. Okay. This will be fun. Anyone here scared of bridges because of everything that's happened? Nice. Okay, so this will be a really fun talk. So, brief agenda for today. We're going to go over the need for interoperability between multiple blockchains. We're going to go over the problem with bridges as they existed over the past few years, so a brief history lesson. We're then going to get into the Axelar network, give an overview of how it works, what are the advantages which it brings. We're then going to get into a really cool feature which Axelar has called general message passing, otherwise known as GMP. I'm going to go over an example of GMP if you guys choose to. I will ask you before I get to it. And then we'll end with some fun stuff. So see Axelar in the wild, get some numbers, who's actually using this stuff, what projects are working with it, what is the liquidity going through Axelar. So lots to get. So a bit about myself. You guys know I'm from Toronto, traveling around Europe for a bit. I got into the blockchain space back in 2017, right at the peak of the bull run during the ICO time. Is anyone around that time? Anyone remember those days? Yeah, it was pretty wild. At the time, these were some of the big projects that were around. So there was, of course, Ethereum, but there were other projects like Neo that was huge at the time, IOTA, EOS, Tron. Many of these projects were called Ethereum killers. For myself, when I was trying to get into the space, I go to events like this, I go to meetups, and you meet all these people. They seem to know so much more than you. They're so confident in the project that they're promoting and that they're involved in. It's extremely overwhelming. So for myself, I didn't really know what to believe. So there were people promoting Neo saying this is the Chinese version of Ethereum. It's going to be the Ethereum killer, it's backed by the government there. It's huge in China. There was EOS, which people were calling Ethereum on steroids, is what people termed it, because it was cheaper than Ethereum and faster transactions than Ethereum. There's also Tron, IOTA, all these projects are still around today. But the point I want to make here with these projects is that the Ethereum killer mentality, it led to another mentality which I like to call, or people call chain maximalism. This idea that there'll be one blockchain to rule them all, whether it's Neo or Tron or Ethereum, whatever it is, but that one blockchain will kill all the other blockchains. And we saw it in the past few years too, Solana, BNB rising, and I think that it's safe to say now, 6 years later, that this idea of chain maximalism is wrong. It never happened. Rather, what we saw was the rise of many, many new blockchains. So this is a screen recording I made a few months ago now from a website called chainlist.org. What this website is, I know it's a little hard to see, but each of these little squares here is a new blockchain. And you can see just on this one website, there's hundreds, if not thousands of blockchains that exist right now. Okay? And this is not even all the blockchains. It's impossible to actually say how many blockchains exist. No one really knows. There's new blockchains in the form of layer 2s, layer 3s even, that are coming up every day. We've seen blockchains that are optimized towards speed, some that are optimized towards privacy. We've seen the rise of app chains, just like the Cosmos and Polkadot world growing, which are blockchains used for one specific use case. And I know it's a bit busy to look at it, but you guys get the point. Lots of blockchains. So I think what it's safe to say is that the need for interoperability between these different blockchains, if we're going to be successful as one Web3 ecosystem, is very, very important. There's not going to be one blockchain to rule them all. And this is not something new. Like I said, I got back in 2017. Within the first few months, I've heard of the need for interoperability. And what we saw was the rise of bridges, which many of you raised your hands. I'm assuming you guys are familiar with bridges, are a bit scared of them, and for good reason. And we saw the rise of wrapped assets, so WETH, wrapped Ethereum, WBTC, wrapped Bitcoin. And for those who are unfamiliar, these are basically tokenized versions of native assets. So for example, the Ether token on Ethereum, that Ether is the native token of Ethereum. That token only exists on Ethereum. But what if we want to use our Ether on other blockchains? Well, that's where WET comes in to fill the void. You can use WET as if you were using Ether. And one WET dollar value is equal to 1 Ether. And this was good, like these wrapped assets worked and bridges were working. The problem with a lot of the bridges that we've seen over the past few years is that they're using something called a multi-sig contract. Do people here know what a multi-sig is? There's no shame if you haven't heard of it. Okay, I'm going to go over the explanation just in case. I also happen to have a slide on it. Multi-sig contracts are basically a design pattern, which basically says, I cannot send the transaction on my own. I need myself, and in this example I have my younger brother, and my parents who didn't want their picture here for whatever reason. And in this example, we need like 3 of us to agree that we're signing this transaction. 3 out of the 4 users here. And in this example, you can see here 3 people agree, I didn't, which is how things typically work in my family, and the transaction goes through. And this is a great design pattern. The problem with multi-sig contracts in the context of bridging is that it's not very decentralized, it's not very secure. If the keys get compromised here, you're screwed. And we've seen this. These are some headlines that I found after like 2 minutes of just looking at some bridge hacks that have happened. So like a lot of you probably remember the Ronin Network bridge hack, the $625 million that was stolen. Poly Network bridge hack on the top right there, that was literally a 3 of 4 multi-sig, like I just showed you guys, where the keys were compromised. I could find many, many more headlines on bridges being hacked, and in fact, here's an interesting article by Chain Analysis Team. I know the text is a bit small, but what it's saying here, they said that 69% of funds stolen in all of crypto in 2022 were hacks on these bridges. That's about $2 billion worth of funds that were stolen from these different bridges. So if we stop right now, what do we know? We know that the number of blockchains is increasing faster than ever before. There's thousands of blockchains that already exist. There'll probably be hundreds of thousands someday. So the need for interoperability is important, but the way we've done interoperability as an ecosystem has been kind of crap. We've seen all the hacks, we know that multi-sig bridges are not good enough, and that is where Axelar comes in. As a reminder, that's where I'm at, Axelar. So what is Axelar, for those of you who haven't heard? In the simplest terms, it is a blockchain that connects blockchains, enabling universal Web3 interoperability. Now, I didn't expect you guys to understand that. That is a lot of jargon, very confusing. So let's break this down. The easiest way to really see Axelar is with this model here. It's a hub and spoke model. So you see the Axelar network right here. These are many of the chains that are currently connected to Axelar. And you can see the way to have a connection is from one chain to the other through the Axelar network. Now I want to go back to this definition. Focus on the last 3 words, universal Web3 interoperability. Why does that matter? Well, let's look at some of these projects here that are connected to Axelar. By the way, this is a bit out of date. We're at 53 blockchains right now. That's the most of any interoperability layer. But I want to focus on those words, universal Web3 interoperability. Let's look at some of these projects. We got Ethereum. Is there a pointer here? Oh, yes. We got Ethereum, Phantom, Polygon, Avalanche. These are examples of blockchains running the Ethereum virtual machine. They're powered by proof of stake. And yeah, I'm sure many of you guys have used one of those 4 blockchains. We also, in addition to these EVM blockchains, we have Osmosis, we have Juno, we have the Cosmos Hub. These are examples of blockchains from the Cosmos ecosystem built with the Cosmos SDK. We have Arbitrum as well. We also have Linea-based, though they're not on this diagram, they were recently added. But Arbitrum, Linea-based, these are examples of layer 2 networks that are also now connected to all these other blockchains via Axelar. So that's what I mean by universal Web3 interoperability, these 3 words here. It doesn't matter which virtual machine you're running, it doesn't matter which consensus mechanism you're running, the Axelar network can support you and can integrate you to all these other blockchains here. As a reminder, we're at 53 chains right now. Now, when you're using Axelar, there's 2 major improvements right out of the box. There's scalability improvements and security improvements. We touched on security a bit, so I'm going to go with scalability first. Remember, before I was talking about pairwise multi-sig bridges. What are those? These are bridges that go from one blockchain to the other, and that's it. So imagine we have 3 blockchains. Let's say Ethereum here in blue, so Ethereum, 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 BNB in yellow, and Polygon. 3 blockchains. To connect each of those blockchains to each other, for those 3 blockchains, you can count it. You need 6 bridges to connect each blockchain to each blockchain. Let's say you want to add a 4th blockchain, let's say Avalanche. Now just for one more blockchain, we now need 9 bridges. And you can imagine if we have a world with thousands of blockchains that exist, how many bridges will we need? It'll be hundreds of thousands of bridges to connect each of these chains. It's kind of like train tracks, right? A train track goes from point A to point B and that's it. With the Axelar model, hub and spoke, all you need is a connection to Axelar. It's more like an airport. Once you have an airport in your city, you can now go to any other city in the world that also has an airport. You don't need a connection to each different airport in the world. So it's a tremendous improvement on the scalability front. The next is in terms of security. I touched on it a bit, but Axelar, remember, is a blockchain for blockchains. What does that mean? It's not just a multi-sig that is conducting interchain transactions. It's an actual blockchain. We currently have 75 validators maintaining the blockchain. It's built on top of Cosmos, and these are not just random validators we have. Anyone here familiar with the Cosmos ecosystem? If you are, you might recognize some of these validators. Figment, Informal Systems, Pikachu. These are very well-known teams who are validating tons of other blockchains in the Cosmos ecosystem that are also participating in being validators on the Axelar network. And validators do a lot more than just actually your typical validator roles of like adding new blocks. But that's a talk for another time. The point I want to make here is that having an actual blockchain handle interoperability versus just a multi-sig is the reason why Axelar, unlike many other interoperability protocols, has never been hacked, and hopefully never will. Now I want to get into a really exciting feature called general message passing. So remember what we had in the early days of interoperability. I was talking about wrapped assets like WETH, WBTC, assets I'm sure many of us have used. And that's great and cool, but we want to do a lot more than just sending wrapped assets from one chain to the other. That's where GMP comes in. So what is general message passing at a very high level? You can see here myself on Avalanche as pretend user, and myself on Ethereum with a picture of me for my first ever crypto meetup. Spent a lot of time looking for that. And you can see here, I'm sending a message from Ethereum to Avalanche saying, like, why me? Like, are we going to make it in this crazy, amazing space that we're dedicating ourselves to? And from Avalanche to Ethereum, I'm sending a transaction that says safe in like 5 quarters. And what I'm trying to show in this example is that sending messages from one chain to the other is a lot more than just sending like hello world messages. It's actually being able to call and interact with functionality on contracts that exist on other blockchains. And that is real interoperability. It's the idea that my contract might live on Ethereum, but I can speak to a contract on Avalanche and interact with it as easily as if that contract also lives on Ethereum, and vice versa. The way this works on a high level, and I'm sorry if the font is a little bit small, but let's go through the guts of how a GMP transaction would work. Let's say we have a smart contract that we wrote that lives on Ethereum, okay? My contract could be a game, could be a DeFi protocol, could be rock, paper, scissors, could be whatever, doesn't matter. I also have that contract that lives on Polygon. I want to go multi-chain, I want to interact with users on Polygon and Ethereum. So I deploy it on both protocols. Now, how do I actually send, how do I send a message, like even a WAGMI, from Ethereum to Polygon? Well, Axelar has something called the gateway contract. This is the contract which is made by the Axelar team. It lives on every single blockchain that Axelar is connected to. This gateway contract exposes many different functions which I can interact with. All I have to do is import it into my contract and then start calling functions. One of those functions is call contract with token. This function is used if I want to send like an ERC20 token from one chain to the other along with the message. Once I call this function, the gateway contract will emit an event. This event will be submitted to the Axelar network. Remember, this is a blockchain. Axelar is a blockchain of blockchains. It has the validators, the 75 validators, which are maintaining the network. The validators come to consensus. They'll be like, hey, did Ben actually send a message that says WAGMI? Yes, we come to a vote. Ben actually did send this message. Good. let's talk to the gateway on the destination chain in Polygon world, and then the gateway on Polygon will talk to our dApp, which is also deployed on Polygon. It'll say, hey, we got a message from Ben on the source chain saying wagon, and then you send it to the contract here. It's as simple as that. One more time. We have a dApp. The dApp talks to the gateway contract. The gateway contract emits an event. The event gets validated in Axelar, sends it to the destination chain, like Polygon. And then the gateway contract on the destination chain interacts with our dApp. Now, I'll stop for any questions if anyone has, because that was a lot. No questions? I'm assuming you all get it perfectly. I'll see you all building on Axelar. If you guys want, I did have a code example, but I'm not sure if you guys are into that, engineers in the room, or should I can move on to other stuff? Show of hands moving on past the code example? Pass the code example? Okay, I'll pass the code example for now. But I will show you the output of the code example. So remember, I sound like a broken record, I know. Axelar is a blockchain of blockchains. So in the end of the code example, what I was going to do, and let me go in dark mode so I don't break your eyes. I know it's a bit small. Axelar is a blockchain of blockchains. So what I was going to do in this code example was send USDC tokens from Polygon to Phantom. Phantom's another blockchain. Now, let me full screen this actually. What you can see here is the step-by-step of the transaction taking place. You can see the transaction was sent on Polygon. I could even click this little Polygon sign, and it'll take me to the live transaction on Polygon scan. So the transaction gets initiated on Polygon at this block. Gets picked up, gas gets paid. The gas service, I'm going to ignore that for now. Basically, Axelar has a gas service which assists us in paying gas on the source and destination chain. But the gas gets paid, it gets confirmed on the Axelar network, gets approved, and then on Phantom, you can see the transaction actually gets executed, and I can click right from the Axelar Block Explorer to go to the Phantom Block Explorer. And you can see an actual transaction taking place from Polygon to Phantom in just a few minutes. The other thing I want to talk about, the more fun stuff, is who cares? Who's actually building with Axelar? What are some of the numbers that we've been seeing? We've been live for about a year and a half, I think, now on the network. So we're already seeing some major partners building with Axelar. Seeing the likes of DYDX building with us, Lido recently just launched. We have enterprise partners as well, like Microsoft, MasterCard, many more in the pipeline as well, hopefully I can mention someday. We have Uniswap is building with us, SushiSwap, and a team called Squid, which is probably my favorite project. Squid is, here we go. Squid, for anyone who's ever used Uniswap, this interface might look familiar. But Squid is using GMP, general messaging, to actually connect and provide an easy experience for anyone who wants to swap tokens. So for anyone who's used Uniswap, this might look familiar. You can swap on Uniswap, you can pick your token, and pick your receiving token, and then you're good to go, you just call swap. The difference here with Squid is you can also choose your blockchain. So in this example, I'm sending GRT token from Ethereum to USDC on Optimism in just one click. I can swap, not only swap the tokens, but also swap between the chains. Now this has been massively successful. MetaMask has recently integrated Squid into their interface. So if any of you swaps on MetaMask, you might see Squid there. Many other wallets have integrated them as well. So that's just one use case of Axelar. And there's many other teams, like I showed before, already building with us. Another use case, which is coming out now, is something called Interchain Token Service. So imagine you have an ERC20 token for your project, and you want it to exist on many chains. And that is an easy use case for Axelar. We actually have a simple no-code front end, which we can use to deploy this. So I have a quick 20-second video to see this in action. So you can look here in the top right corner. I know it's small, but I'm on Avalanche. Now I want to deploy a new token. So I click deploy. This website is live, by the way. It's testnet.interchain.axelar.dev. I'll say it one more time, testnet.interchain.axelar.dev, if any of you guys want to play around with this. But you can see here, I give my token name, a symbol, decimals, I can then pick which other blockchains do I want to deploy on as well. So in this case, I'm going to deploy on Polygon in addition to Avalanche. So I click on Polygon, and I simply click deploy and register the token on 2 blockchains. So I click on this, and then this will trigger a MetaMask transaction. The video is a little bit slow. Let's speed this up a bit. This triggers a MetaMask transaction, and then both the token gets deployed on 2 chains. So you see it's deployed here on Avalanche and Polygon. Let's say a year from now, I want to deploy on more blockchains. Let's say BNB. So I can come back to this website, click on BNB, click on Arbitrum, and then I can simply just click deploy on BNB and Arbitrum. And you'll see my MetaMask transaction will pop up, and then as easy as that, I have an ERC20 token on 4 different blockchains. So that's a product that's already live on testnet, will be on mainnet very soon. We have lots of teams already building with it. And just before I wrap up, I want to show you guys some numbers. Oh, back on this video. This is from our Block Explorer, just some numbers on Axelar. So we've already had $6.5 billion in transaction volume. This is a bit out of date. I think we're closer to 7 now. As I said before, 53 blockchains that are connected, 1 million GMP transactions, which is like the sending of the messages. Yeah, 370,000 active users just in between September to October. So it's a really exciting time to be building with Axelar. You saw the teams that are already building with us. If any of you guys want to try some stuff out, on the left is video tutorials actually building out some code examples. On the right is a link to our GitHub. If any of you guys want to try out some simple code examples. And that's it. My name is Ben. Thanks for listening. If you have any feedback, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys want to make some question about this interchain? Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. That was very interesting. I have one question regarding, not an expert, but when it comes to interoperability, I heard a lot about layer 0 and CCIP, yeah, from Chainlink. GMP is a different technology, right? And what are the advantages and drawbacks of it compared to the other ones?
So GMP is more of a, I'm not going to call it technology, it's a use case. It's the ability to send messages from one blockchain to the other. So you can do that on layer 0, you can do that on CCIP. The difference with Axelar is we're the most decentralized way of doing it. None of those layer 0 or Chainlink are actual blockchains that are powering this. So we have like the 75 validators, it's permissionless, anyone can join. We're the only team that's actually implementing our own blockchain. We also are connected to the most amount of blockchains. We're at, as I said, 53 blockchains. I think CCIP is not above 10 yet. Layer 0 is in the low 30s, I think, last I checked. So that's the difference. Trying to hit the same market for sure, different approaches to doing it.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Anyone? Yeah. Okay.
So different partners you talk about Mastercard and Microsoft. Do they have any? Have they shared some of the ideas they actually want to use?
They're still under development. The one that's live from there is Lido. They have like a wrapped version of their token, which they're sending off to different chains via Axelar. I think the IDX is live too, right? They just launched their blockchain, I think, last week. And I know they're also partnered with Axelar for sending assets. But some of the more enterprise projects that I mentioned before, they're still in development right now.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.